Whose face is this, anyway? Is the 20th episode of the second season of The Golden Girls. This is directed by Terry Hughes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. I'll go through things chronologically, and I really enjoyed this episode. I thought there were some really great moments in it. Did I think it was funny? There were definitely some really great funny moments in it, but I don't think it was necessarily as laugh out loud funny as some episodes. But as I said, I still had great fun with it. It starts off with Rose making a video for her college class, and actually there is one bit where I laughed out loud. And this is at the beginning when Rose is asking Sophia and Dorothy if they'll be in her video. Sophia's all for it, Dorothy not so much. And then Blanche comes in and Rose says, "Blanche, how do you feel about performing in front of a video camera?" And we are allowed enough time to enjoy that before Blanche actually answers. There is, of course, a suggestion there that she films herself in the intimate act with other people, which I just thought was very, very funny, mostly because of Blanche's response and her facial expression, but also because the joke was implied, and we, the viewer, were allowed to come to our own conclusions, or I guess give our own punchlines for those few seconds while we waited for Blanche to respond, which I thought was very well done. While Rose is filming, Sophia tries to use the opportunity to sell her recipes, and then Blanche actually comes home early as she was supposed to be meeting her sorority sisters, and she did, but she decided to cut the visit short because she feels like everybody else has been frozen in time. They're just as beautiful as they were back in the day, and it made her feel unattractive. And she's really devastated by this. She spends a couple of days in her room crying, and we then get quite a delightful story actually from Sophia about how she was once a very vain individual. And I think that this is a really important message. I feel like, and thankfully I'm not speaking for myself, and I'm sure I'm not speaking about anybody listening to this, but there are some people who will look at older individuals as just that, just older individuals who have always looked the same, who have always had the same opinions about themselves, but actually, once upon a time, those individuals might have been drop-dead gorgeous. That's not to say somebody older can't be drop-dead gorgeous, but certainly there is this prejudice that some people have against older people that they were never beautiful by society's standards, and that they always just looked the way they did, which is absolutely nonsense. And I think it's a really great reminder that actually people who are older used to be younger, and they might have been vain, they might have been obsessed with their appearance, they might still be, but certainly I feel like as a person gets older, it's easier to let go of that. But it's a nice reminder that actually everybody has a past, and sometimes people who might not be as wrapped up in their looks now might not have always been that way, and I thought that was pretty great. And we then get to watch Rose's video, and it's going really well. And then Blanche sees herself, and she hates it. She hates how she looks, and the next thing we know, she is planning on getting plastic surgery. And we have this great scene where everybody's discussing their looks, and Rose says that she could never imagine being that wrapped up in her appearance, but as I think it was Dorothy pointed out, she colours her hair, she gets her nails done, she does focus on her appearance, even though it may not be her be-all and end-all like it is for Blanche. And I think that that's something that's pretty important to remember as well. Yes, there are people who are exceptionally wrapped up in their appearance to a point where it's really unhealthy, but most people, to some degree, care about their appearance and care about how they look. So if you are somebody who's maybe not as bothered as Blanche is, it doesn't mean that you don't care. It is a sliding scale, and I feel like there's a good place to be. I feel like being at either end of the spectrum, being Blanche level obsessed with your appearance, probably not healthy, but also not caring at all is probably not very good either, because self-care is really important, and I think it's nice in that moment to show that actually even somebody like Rose, who doesn't think she cares about her appearance, actually does to what I would consider to be quite a healthy extent. Blanche then goes to her appointment, and then everybody goes to visit her, and they approach her bed. And I'll be honest, I thought it was very apparent as soon as they approached her bed what was happening. That's largely because I've seen this kind of thing happening in sitcoms before. The person in the bed has their head completely bandaged up. They have eyes and a mouth hole, but otherwise you can't see them. And they're talking to her as if she's Blanche. And all we can hear is this person mumbling something, and they're not getting the message. So this person lifts up the blanket so they can presumably see this person's manhood and get the message that this isn't Blanche. And they find out that actually Blanche didn't go through with it. And this was largely because she got a date with a plastic surgeon. And she said something that I thought was, well, it would have been really uplifting for Blanche. I didn't write the quote down, but I'm paraphrasing to say that basically the surgeon has the ability to craft the perfect face. He can do whatever he wants. Granted, he needs the permission of his patients, but he has the ability to craft perfection. And yet he chose Blanche, and that made her feel wonderful. And I thought that was rather sweet. And she also said, I can live with the lines and the wrinkles and the sagging as long as I have the three of you. And I thought that was beautiful. Of course, she ended it by saying she'll always be the prettiest among them, which is maybe not the best sentiment, but I think eventually, by the end of the episode, she got the message that she still looks wonderful. She might not look 20, 30 years old anymore, but she still looks brilliant, and as she kind of pointed out, she looks the way she does, but she still manages to get dates, and she still manages to get male attention, so why go to the extreme? And I think that it was a really great moment for Blanche at the end there. But I really enjoyed this episode. Some funny moments. Maybe not as funny as some episodes, but in general, I still really liked it. And to sum up, there are some brilliant messages in this. And Whose Face Is This Anyway? It's a pretty decent episode.